Hey, it's Sebastian, TK11697, and I'm here talking about the Imperial Army Trooper, which was just approved for your GMLs to take a look at. And a lot of people have been asking about what goes into this, but first I'll cover the whole Imperial Army Trooper thing and why we chose that. Um, Maybe a year ago, there was a lot of renewed interest in the Imperial Army Trooper. We kind of hoped maybe it would be in Rogue One. We hoped it would be in the new movie. Um, we knew it had been in the comics from back in the 80s and 90s, back when Dark Horse Comics did an Imperial series, an Empire series, and it of course had been in the West End Games role-playing game. So we had two choices. If you went by the role-playing game and the miniatures game, the Imperial Army Trooper was essentially an ATST driver. It was a gray jumpsuit, white Imperial cogs, black gauntlets, black boots, belt, and the helmet. And as a matter of fact, even I don't know if I've seen anything contradictory to that. If you have an ATST driver complete, you have what one version of the Imperial Army Trooper would be. So that was the role playing game. That was the West End Games version of it. The Dark Horse Comics one was more militaristic, more like traditional. I think they modeled the look off of the U.S. military. You know, they went off of like 1980s U.S. military style, and so what you got was U.S. Marine Corps coverall, a mechanics utility coverall with no zippers or anything and lots of pockets. You got a green helmet that had the telemetry unit on either side of the helmet, because again, I guess it depended what artist happened to be drawing that day. Some of them had great detail, some of them were very vague and very inconsistent, and it looked more. It actually looked the opposite of what the Empire does. It actually looked like you might like blend into to the scenery. I mean, it was green on green on green. So we went with that because we had a lot of pictures. The role playing game had some pictures, and of course we had the miniatures. But the miniatures didn't have color. They had a lot of detail, but they didn't have color. And those, as far as we knew, even though they described it in the game language, they didn't actually like draw out a lot of pictures of the Imperial Army Trooper because it wasn't a major unit. It was never really seen in the movies, other than, like I said, it's the ATST drivers. So so we went with the Dark Horse comic ones because we had a lot of color pictures for it. That's just a bit of trivia for you. And the CRL team. It was myself, Carrie Marola, and Ron von Moen. Ron and I had been started to thread in the Imperial Officer Corps about it with a lot of interest. And again, the first iterations of it really started to look like, again, like an ATST driver, to which people said, why do we need another ATST driver? And I guess good point. I thought it would look pretty badass. As a matter of fact, I built an entire one with body armor and stuff. I think you guys might have seen about 6 months ago. But we went with green, and this is what we got. So the base coverall is actually, I just went on eBay 5 minutes ago. You can get them for $15 to $25. I think the most I've seen is $50. It is a U.S. Marine Corps OD green utility coverall, mechanics utility coverall, and I will include the NSN number so you can get it from an Army Navy store. They're actually very accessible. You don't really have to do anything to them. I put stirrups in the feet so that they didn't ride up, and I put stirrups in the hands so that it didn't bunch up around the gloves. And then of course you just got to do the Mandarin collar. I cut a little bit off the leg, the part that'd be covered by the boot, and just made a Mandarin collar with a chevron point on it. I know Ron at one point had talked to Wampaware about doing these. I don't know where that went. We'll find out. We're still kind of getting everything together that way, logistically. And all you have to do is add the patch. Now the patch looks like this. This is very shiny, by the way. I didn't kind of intend for it to look this way, but for a long time the CRL's been kicked around and had been turned down for one reason or another. So I didn't want to invest, do a run of patches, which would have been about $700 for 100 patches. So I went with a local embroidery place that did 6 patches for like $100 because it wasn't a major run, but they came out nice. They look good. I think they're 5.5 inches by 3 inches, and this is more or less what we see in the comics. In the comics, we see the cog actually is green, but it's only in one panel that we ever get a good look at the at this patch. So we went with this, but we also went with an alternative patch that is just your classic round Imperial Cog patch in OD green and black. That will be much easier to get a hold of because I think I can get those for like $2 a piece, as opposed to these, which was for two, it was going to cost $50 for a pair, and that's pretty expensive for patches. And it doesn't have the mirror edge or anything like that. So, you know, as it looked good, this would be the more accurate one, but there's no problem getting the other one. Instead, the patches only appear in a handful of panels in the comics, and there's only one time that we actually see the detail. So it's a little speculative. So after you get your flight suit or your mechanic's utility suit, which again, so I just saw them for like $25 for a large, which is not bad. You got to get your web belt. I think Condor makes these. Your USGI, belt here. It's got the front. It's got the buckle up front, which doesn't need to be changed. That's totally fine. As a matter of fact, it looks. The comic creators, I think they just copied this belt because it has the buckle and everything. Like, this is completely accurate. Where the harness meets the belt, there's magazine there's double handcuff pouches. I think they're like M47 double handcuff pouches on each side. It covers up where it meets, although it doesn't really need to. It's supposed to look tactical anyway, but that's what you got, is one on each side of the belt. And then at least one AK-47 magazine pouch in the back, which again, I think all the information's on the CRL. And then you just throw some more stuff on there. I think this is these like binocular, just like case or something like that. I don't know. It looked very similar to what I saw in the comic. So the harness itself, the H part, the strap goes along the back. It's just OD green nylon. It shows up a little reflective here because it's got light on it, but it's not. You're gonna have to size it yourself just to, just see what fits you. But it's supposed to curl across your back around where your shoulder blades would be, and fit snugly so it doesn't bunch up. But again, that's pretty easy to make. Someone with a sewing machine can do it in about 10 minutes. I was very lucky to have my mom around for a little while, who loves to sew, and she banged out, I think, 2 or 3 of these in a couple of hours for everything, for including the buckles, everything. Lastly, you're going to need not lastly, but you're going to need a helmet. Now, this is basically the ATST driver helmet. It's not the Veers, the more complicated Veers ones. You got the discs on the side. I put the screw covers on because that's where I attach the chin cup, and I've got this piece over here, which I modified. This, if you go to the Rogue One visual reference guide, it actually looks very much like this, with no disc, no half moon antenna. So and it can go on either side. If you look in the comics, it alternates all the time. But the one thing it never really had, I never saw a single panel where it had the half moon disc. I think that's unique to the ATST driver. They call it a telemetry unit, and I think it was for communicating between like the armored cavalry. The chin cup, again, $2 or $3 off of eBay. You can make your own. I think the helmet comes with one, and the helmet is just going to be, again, it's going to be OD green, more or less matching the flight suit. If you don't want to use the helmet, you could use the OD green Imperial hat. I think, not sure who sells it. I think WampaWare sells it. I know there was a Black Series version of it I picked up in California. There's one that you can get from Cosplay Sky or Cosplaysky, or however you want to say it. They're out there. You can get them. They're not generally the same color material as the flight suit, but it's close, and that's fine because, again, in the comics they seem like they're different colors anyway. Now, if you want to stick with the helmet and you want to wear body armor, there is the TIE Pilot, same chest piece, again OD green with shoulder straps and stuff on it. They're a little different than the TK straps or the Snowstrooper ones. They don't have that flat piece over here. It's all just the ribs. And the front is the Snowtrooper front. But instead of the light up red buttons, it just has these buttons here. And what you might notice, for those that play Battlefront 2, is this is also exactly what the Battlefront 2 officer wears. It's got the T-bit that he had, and the shoulder straps in the game are a little bit different. There's no back piece, but if you wind up buying this and making this, and you want to go out and get the more advanced helmet because they wear more of a Veer style helmet, we'll be working on that CRL as well, because for all we know, that is an actual canon appearance of an Imperial Army Trooper. And in the new Solo movie, if the Lego miniatures are to be believed, it looks like you're going to see Imperial Army Troopers or something close to it with a cape, which is pretty badass looking, in the new Han Solo movie. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that actually does make an on-screen appearance. The boots are regular German jack boots. They're the ones that you're going to get for your TIE pilot and God knows how many other costumes. Then the gauntlets are the black gauntlets for the TIE pilot, and again for the Navy Trooper and a bunch of others. Or you could go with the Army, the IOC officer gloves, the black leather gloves, riding gloves, or whatever it is. You could use those instead. I said it really doesn't make a difference. The gauntlets are more accurate for the combat configuration. Like I said, if you're going to wear the helmet, you should be wearing the gauntlets. If you're going to be wearing the body armor, you should definitely be wearing the helmet and the gauntlets. But if you want to wear the soft cover and you want to wear the smaller gloves, that's fine, because in the comics, most of the guys that are wearing the helmets and going into battle carrying E11s, most of the guys that are wearing the soft cover and the gloves actually had like sniper rifles and like medic stuff, which is another thing we might look into. So just try to keep true to the canon there, or whatever you want to call it. And that's pretty much it. There's no neck seal involved. There's nothing special you really need to do other than making the harness. The helmet, of course, it's a little different than the ATST driver. I suppose if you wanted to put the telemetry unit on the other side and make the half moon antenna removable, you could probably double up as a ATST driver helmet. Again, like I said, they're both the Imperial Army Trooper if you go by Legends material anyway. And I'll put some links in the description. We're trying to get a sub forum up on Special Ops, and things that are coming in the future is so we have everything you see here pretty much, but in black. It's the Imperial Army Engineer. And the engineer had 2 roles in the comics, it looks like. Well, 3 roles. They had a combat engineer where they were building fortifications and stuff, and they're with the soft cover, like the black hat, same that is used again with the the TIE Reserve, black jumpsuit, black everything. The H-style harness, along with the pouches and stuff, are all black. It actually looks pretty cool. I posted some pictures of it. And then there's another version with the black helmet with the goggles and stuff like that. Oh yeah, these take goggles. I took them off for this, but you wear goggles with this costume. The engineer, and just basically is everything in black, and they're the combat ones. There's ones with backpacks, which we'll talk to like Crooked Knight and see if we can get something going there. There's sapper configurations where they've got like tons of explosives on them, and like a heavier Alice system belt, again taken right out of the U.S. military. All the parts are readily available. There's a part where they're just like making fortifications, where they're kind of like more lightweight, soft cover, and then there's the middle of the road ones where they're wearing helmets and stuff, but again carrying heavy weapons, like T-21s, DLT-19s and stuff like that, sniper rifles. They were like kind of like a heavy weapons platoon attached to the army. So and that's pretty much it. I said going forward we'll be doing, I hope the officer gets its own CRL eventually. I'm looking at making the Battlefront 2 officer as its own CRL because it's very different. And then of course the engineer. So that's what we're going to be working on going forward. But right now we have the Imperial Army Trooper approved. It's a very easy costume. I don't know how much the helmet goes for, maybe $150, but and the chest plate, if you really went crazy with it, you're talking about $400, maybe $500. And like I said, the gauntlets and the boots are reusable. And it's pretty fun. I think it's not recognizable in the sense that not a lot of people see it in Star Wars, but it looks very militaristic, more modern military. And that's it. I'm looking around. I don't see anything else that you guys really need. Oh, for patches, if if there's enough of an interest, I'll do a run of patches. They're expensive. The Shield ones are, I think the best price I got was, I had to get 100 for $7 each. I could put down $700. That's not a problem, but I got to just be fairly confident that those patches are going to move, because, you know, that's pretty pricey. Oh, another thing that we're going to add is in the comics, the Army Troopers wear the TK belt, with the ammo boxes and the drop boxes and stuff too. So we'll be working on that, getting like OD green Trooper stuff going. So we'll see. All right, well, that's it for now. I hope you found this useful, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below, or whatever Facebook post I put this in. Once we get the sub forum up, we'll of course have links to everything and a step-by-step guide of how to get into this. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.